Singer gets tortured by a military regime, then released specifically to make propaganda music for them. But instead of compliance, he embeds hidden resistance messages in every song. Today we're exploring Kiros Alemayehu, the Ethiopian musician who turned apparent surrender into artistic rebellion, how he used Tigrinya music to unite a divided nation, and why his voice still echoes through streaming platforms decades after his death. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how music became both weapon and shield in one of Africa's most turbulent political periods.
So let me start with the basics. Who exactly was Kiros Alemayehu, and why should we care about a singer from 1970s Ethiopia?
Kiros Alemayehu was born on July 26, 1948, in a small village called Saesi Tsaedaemba in the eastern part of Tigray region. According to the page content, he was the only child to his parents, his father Grazmach Alemayehu Meles, and his mother Qeleb Gebremeskel.
So he came from this remote village in northern Ethiopia. What was his path to music?
He went to school in the nearby city of Wukro, then joined Atse Yohannes High School in Mekelle. But here's where it gets interesting. Before he became famous, he worked as an assistant trainer for something called the Tigray musical troupe.
A musical troupe? That sounds like formal training.
Exactly. And his instrument of choice was the Krar, a traditional Ethiopian string instrument. The page content describes him as both a famous Tigrinya singer and Krar player.
Now, Tigrinya is the language of Tigray region, right? But what made Kiros special was how he reached beyond that community.
That's the key insight. According to the sources, Kiros popularized Tigrinya songs through his albums to non-Tigrinya-speaking Ethiopians. He was essentially a cultural bridge builder.
Wait, that's actually huge. Ethiopia has over 80 different ethnic groups and languages. For someone to cross those boundaries through music?
It was revolutionary, and his first album came out around 1983 when he joined Ras Theater. Some of his most famous songs include Angwai Fisis, Filili, Selam Hawa, Suvur Fikri, and Ade Mekele.
Those titles are beautiful. What were his songs actually about?
The page content says he was well known for songs that highlighted the ups and downs of everyday human life, including songs that reflected the social and political atmospheres of his time. People admired his unique writing style and poetic abilities.
So he was writing about real life, real struggles, but then politics got involved.
This is where the story gets dark. According to Timkehet Tefera's academic research, Kiros artistically fought against the dictatorial Derg military regime. He used his songs as a tool to transmit messages to millions of his nationwide fans, both Tigrayans and non-Tigrayans.
The Derg regime, that was the brutal military government that ruled Ethiopia from 1974 to 1987, right?
Exactly. And here's what's chilling. His fast-growing popularity among the Wayane and government opponents made Kiros one of the Derg's victims. He faced imprisonment and severe torture.
Torture for making music. That's the reality of living under authoritarian rule.
But here's the twist that makes this story so fascinating. After a short time in prison, he was deliberately released to propagate pro-governmental songs, since his artistic fame and his power to move the nation through music was considered extremely effective.
Wait, so they tortured him, then decided to use him as a propaganda tool?
That's exactly what happened. The regime recognized his influence and thought they could control it. But Kiros was smarter than they realized.
How so?
Although he appeared to obey the rule of the Derg, the songs he performed after his release comprised hidden meanings opposing the regime. The lyrics dealt with themes of heroic deeds, love for motherland, freedom, and peace.
So he was doing musical resistance, appearing to comply while actually embedding opposition messages. That's brilliant and incredibly dangerous.
The research gives us specific examples. Songs like Amharai Oromo Tigrawe Kaite Bahahalna, which means we can live in harmony without ethnic differentiation, Selam Bealsna, meaning victory through our struggle, and Nizekiro Nai Kedem Weledi, let us honor our forefathers.
Those titles alone are acts of defiance. Unity between ethnic groups, victory through struggle, honoring ancestors, all things the Derg would have seen as threats.
Exactly. And think about the courage this required. Every performance was a risk. Every song could have been his last.
It reminds me of how artists throughout history have had to navigate oppression. But there's something particularly powerful about music as resistance.
Music has this unique ability to carry multiple meanings. The regime heard what they wanted to hear, but the people understood the real message. It's like he was speaking in code.
And his reach was incredible. The sources mention he performed in Libya and other Middle Eastern countries too.
That's right. According to the page content, Kiros, along with other musicians, had played in Libya and other Middle Eastern countries. His influence was spreading beyond Ethiopia's borders.
So he was becoming this Pan-African voice. But his story has a tragic ending.
Kiros died on October 13, 1994, from intestinal complications. He was only 46 years old. But here's what's haunting. The page content notes that it is widely believed that the government was behind his death.
Even after the Derg fell, there were still suspicions about his death. That tells you how threatening his voice remained.
What's remarkable is how his legacy has endured. The sources mention that his music remains impactful to this day, with his songs available on streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music.
That's actually fascinating. This voice of resistance from the 1970s and 80s is now accessible to anyone with a smartphone.
And there's something beautiful about that. According to the page content, a memorial library is under construction in Wukro near his birthplace. Physical and digital preservation working together.
It's like his voice is still crossing borders, still building bridges. What do you think made him so effective as both an artist and a resistance figure?
I think it was his authenticity. The research describes him as someone who moved millions of his admirers through his great love for music. He wasn't just performing resistance, he was living it.
And his ability to speak to universal human experiences while staying rooted in Tigrinya culture. That's not easy to pull off.
The sources emphasize his unique writing style and poetic abilities. He could take the specific struggles of his people and make them resonate with everyone. That's the mark of a true artist.
There's also something powerful about how he used traditional instruments like the Krar. He wasn't abandoning his roots to reach a wider audience.
That's such an important point. He proved you could be deeply traditional and broadly relevant at the same time. The Krar became a vehicle for modern resistance.
And looking at his discography on Discogs, you can see the range. Albums from the early 1980s, compilations, collaborations with other artists. He was prolific.
The page content describes him as a prolific songwriter and singer. Even under political pressure, he kept creating. That takes incredible dedication.
What strikes me is how his story connects to broader themes we see today. Artists using their platforms for social change. Music as a form of soft power.
Absolutely. And the way he navigated ethnic divisions in Ethiopia feels particularly relevant. His message of unity, we can live in harmony without ethnic differentiation, that's still needed.
It's also interesting how the YouTube documentary about him is titled The Voice That Never Faded. That suggests his influence is still growing.
The documentary description says his songs continue to live on, crossing generations and borders, keeping his memory alive in every note. That's the power of authentic art. It transcends its original context.
And according to Timkehet Tefera's research, his signature tunes remain timeless and survive generations to come. That's quite a prediction.
When you think about it, his story has everything. Artistic brilliance, political courage, cultural bridge building, and ultimately, sacrifice for his beliefs. Those are the elements that create lasting legacies.
There's something deeply moving about an artist who risked everything to keep singing truth. In a world where we often talk about the power of music, Kiros actually lived it.
And he did it while being incredibly strategic. The hidden meanings in his songs show he understood that sometimes the most effective resistance is the kind that doesn't announce itself.
Right, he was playing a long game, building unity, preserving culture, inspiring hope, all while appearing to comply with an oppressive regime.
The fact that people are still studying his work, like Timkehet Tefera's academic research, shows that scholars recognize his significance beyond just entertainment. He was a cultural and political force.
And the SBS Tigrinya podcast, interviewing his friends and family members, suggests there are still untold stories about his private life and relationships.
That human dimension is so important. Behind the legend was a person who made daily choices to keep creating, keep resisting, keep hoping. That takes extraordinary strength.
So when you step back from all this, what's Kiros Alemayo's real legacy? What should people understand about his impact?
I think he proved that art can be both beautiful and dangerous, that music can unite people across ethnic lines, and that sometimes the most powerful resistance happens in plain sight. He showed that culture itself can be a form of politics.
And in our current moment, when we're seeing artists around the world grapple with political pressure and censorship, his example feels incredibly relevant. He found a way to stay true to his values while staying alive long enough to make a difference.
Exactly. His story reminds us that artistic courage doesn't always look like direct confrontation. Sometimes it looks like a Tigrinya singer with a Krar, embedding hope in melodies that outlast the regimes trying to silence them.
That's beautifully put. And with that, thanks for joining us